Ambient, slightly eerie music begins with the sound of wind rustling through trees. Imagine you're deep in the wilderness, miles from any sign of civilization. You stumble upon something half buried in the mud and leaves, an old camcorder caked with dirt but surprisingly intact. You pick it up, brush it off, and with a click, the dusty view screen flickers to life. This isn't just any old camera. This camera belonged to a hiker who vanished without a trace back in 2013. And the most unsettling part? When his camera was finally found in 2023, 10 years later, it was still recording. The story begins with a man named Alex, an experienced outdoorsman who loved exploring the most remote parts of the national forest. In the fall of 2013, he packed his gear, told his family he'd be gone for a weekend trip, and set off on a trail he knew like the back of his hand. He never came back. Search parties combed the area for weeks, then months. They found his abandoned campsite, a half-eaten meal, his tent still zipped up from the inside. But Alex and the camcorder he always carried were gone. For a decade, his case went cold, becoming another sad local legend whispered around campfires. Fast forward to last year. A group of forestry students, surveying the area for a conservation project, found it. The camera, a classic 2010s model, was lodged between the roots of an ancient oak tree, far off any marked path. They couldn't believe their eyes when they pressed the power button and the little red light blinked on. The battery was somehow still alive. Eager to find clues, they brought it straight to the local authorities. What they were about to see would turn a missing person case into something far more terrifying. The footage begins normally enough. It's shaky, handheld video of Alex hiking. He's smiling, talking to the camera, pointing out landmarks, the beauty of the autumn leaves. He seems happy, relaxed. The timestamp in the corner reads October 12th, 2013. He sets up his camp, films the sunset, and then the footage cuts to the next morning. But something is different. The cheerful narration is gone. The camera is now pointed erratically at the trees, the ground, the sky. Alex is breathing heavily. You can hear the panic in his every gasp. He's running. The police watched, captivated, as the forest became a dizzying green and brown blur. Alex keeps glancing back over his shoulder, but the camera never quite captures what he's running from. All you can hear are his ragged breaths and the snapping of twigs under his feet. Then he trips. The camera tumbles to the ground, landing with its lens pointed up at the dense canopy of leaves. For several long minutes, that's all the footage shows. The sky, the swaying branches, and the sound of Alex's labored breathing somewhere just out of frame. Then a new sound emerges, faint at first, then growing louder. It's a strange, low hum, almost like a distorted electrical frequency, a sound that doesn't belong in the middle of a forest. As the hum intensifies, the light captured by the lens begins to warp. The colors bleed into each other, twisting and swirling in unnatural patterns. The afternoon sun seems to flicker on and off like a faulty light bulb. It's disorienting, nauseating to watch. And that's when they saw it. For just a split second, silhouetted against the distorted light, a figure appears. It's tall, unnaturally thin, with limbs that seem too long for its body. It stands perfectly still for a moment before vanishing as quickly as it appeared. The footage continues like this for what feels like an eternity. The light warps, the hum pulses, and the figure flickers in and out of existence at the edge of the frame. The authorities were baffled. Was it a trick of the light? A technical glitch in the old camera? They decided to bring in digital forensic experts to analyze the tape frame by frame. And this is where the story descends from a mystery into pure, unfiltered nightmare fuel. The experts confirmed the footage hadn't been tampered with. It was raw, authentic video from that day in 2013. But they discovered something impossible. The timestamp on the camera, which should have been progressing normally, was stuck. It was looping. The time flickered rapidly, but only between 3 and 3:05 p.m. Over and over again, the same 5 minutes, repeating for 10 years straight. The camera was trapped in a temporal loop. The experts theorized that some unknown energy source in that part of the forest must have interfered with the camera's internal clock. But that didn't explain the figure, or what happened to Alex. The most chilling discovery, however, came from the audio track. Buried deep beneath the layers of humming and the rustling leaves, they isolated a faint sound. It was a voice. Alex's voice. It was barely a whisper, distorted and stretched as if being spoken very, very slowly. After hours of cleaning up the audio, they managed to make out a single, terrifying phrase, repeated endlessly in sync with the time loop. The voice whispered, "Don't rewind it." Think about that for a second. A warning from a man who vanished a decade ago, embedded in a recording that defies the laws of time. Don't rewind it. Why? What would happen if they did? The lead detective, a pragmatic man named Miller, dismissed it as a coincidence, an auditory illusion. Against the protests of a younger, more superstitious officer, he ordered them to rewind the tape back to the beginning, hoping to spot a clue they might have missed when Alex was still calmly filming his hike. They gathered around the monitor as the footage rewound. The chaotic running sequence spooled backward. The figure unmaterialized from the screen. Alex untripped, rising from the ground to continue running backward through the woods. Everything seemed normal for a rewind, but the sound was wrong. As the tape went backward, the ambient sounds of the forest, the wind, the birds, the snapping twigs began to change. They twisted and warped, pitching higher and higher until they were no longer recognizable as sounds of nature. They became screams, and not just any screams. The officers in the room froze, their faces draining of color. They recognized the voices, the distorted, agonized shrieks echoing from the speakers as the tape rewound, were their own. It was the sound of them, screaming in terror, in that very room, at that very moment. A sound from the future, or an alternate present, somehow recorded on a tape from the past. Detective Miller, his face pale, slammed his hand down on the stop button. The room fell silent, except for the heavy, panicked breathing of everyone present. They had been warned. Don't rewind it. The warning wasn't for Alex's safety. It was for theirs. By rewinding the tape, they had somehow connected themselves to whatever happened in that forest. They had opened a door that should have remained shut forever. The case was immediately classified. The camera and its impossible recording were locked away in a high-security evidence vault, never to be seen again. But the story doesn't end there. The officers who were in that room that day were never the same. They reported experiencing shared nightmares of a dark forest and a tall, thin figure watching them from between the trees. Detective Miller took an early retirement weeks later, refusing to speak about the incident to anyone. The forestry students who found the camera reported feeling like they were being constantly watched whenever they returned to the woods. It's as if a piece of that place, that impossible 5-minute loop, latched onto anyone who came into contact with it. So what really happened to Alex? Was he taken by the strange entity on the tape? Or is he still out there, trapped in that 5-minute loop between 3 and 3:05 p.m., forever running from something we can't comprehend? His final, whispered warning suggests he knew what the camera had become. Not just a recording device, but a vessel, a trap, a window into a place where time and reality break down. A place you can see, but a place you should never, ever try to rewind. Thank you so much for joining me on this dive into the unknown. If you enjoyed this story and want more content that explores the strange and unexplained, make sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next video. Stay safe out there, and whatever you do, be careful what you find in the woods.